The door opened with a soft click that sounded far louder than it should have, like a mistake echoing through a quiet cathedral. And in that single frozen second, Ethan Cole's life tilted off its familiar axis. What he saw on the other side was not meant for him, not meant for anyone, and yet it burned itself into his memory with the force of a lightning strike. He stood there, breath caught, heart pounding, realizing too late that some moments cannot be unseen and some doors once opened change everything forever. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing the right thing even when no one is watching, take a moment to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. Ethan had never imagined his life would shrink to hallways, time cards, and whispered apologies, but that was the reality after his wife passed away 3 years earlier, leaving him alone with their 6-year-old daughter, Lily. He was a single dad balancing grief and responsibility, love and exhaustion every single day. His mornings began before sunrise, packing lunches with one hand while tying shoelaces with the other, and his nights ended with whispered prayers beside Lily's bed, asking for strength he didn't always feel. The job at Arden Global Solutions was supposed to be temporary, just a stepping stone, but it became his lifeline. He worked as a maintenance supervisor, invisible to most people, the man who fixed what others broke and cleaned what others left behind. He learned early that being invisible was safer than being noticed, especially in a company where power lived on the top floors and people like him existed in the shadows below. That afternoon, everything was already running late. A water leak had flooded part of the executive corridor, and Ethan had been called upstairs in a rush. He moved quickly, pushing his cart through polished floors that reflected his tired face back at him. He had been told to check the private changing suite near the boardroom, a space he rarely entered and never lingered in. The signs were small, the lighting dim, and his mind was distracted by thoughts of Lily's school performance that evening, wondering if he would make it on time. When he reached the door marked only with a silver symbol, he knocked lightly, waited a second that felt longer than it was, and then turned the handle, assuming it was empty. That was when he saw her. Victoria Hale, the CEO of Arden Global, stood inside the room mid-motion, the powerful woman known for commanding boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, caught in a private human moment. The shock was mutual, the air thick with embarrassment and disbelief. Ethan's face burned, his body locked in place for a heartbeat too long before he stepped back and closed the door, his hands shaking. He felt his stomach drop, not because of what he saw, but because of what it meant. He was a nobody who had just crossed an invisible line. In a world built on hierarchy and control, accidents like that did not end quietly. For the rest of the day, Ethan worked with his head down, every footstep echoing louder than usual. His mind replayed the moment again and again, imagining worst-case scenarios. He needed this job. Lily needed stability. One complaint, one accusation, and everything he had rebuilt from the ashes of his old life could disappear. By the time he clocked out, his chest felt tight, as if the building itself was pressing down on him. He barely made it to Lily's performance, slipping into the back of the auditorium, just in time to see her smile on stage. That small, bright smile that reminded him why he kept going. The days that followed were heavy with silence. No emails, no calls, no sudden meetings, but that silence was worse than confrontation. Ethan waited for the fallout that never seemed to arrive, yet every knock on the door made his heart race. He noticed changes at work too, subtle things at first. Extra inspections, stricter schedules, supervisors watching him more closely. He told himself it was his imagination, the guilt and fear playing tricks on him, but deep down he knew something had shifted. What Ethan didn't know was that Victoria Hale hadn't forgotten the moment either. For years, she had lived wrapped in armor, her identity reduced to titles and expectations. That brief, accidental intrusion had reminded her of something she rarely allowed herself to feel: vulnerability. She had seen the panic in Ethan's eyes, not entitlement or curiosity, but pure fear and respect. Instead of anger, she felt something unexpected, a sharp awareness of how easily power could crush someone already carrying the weight of the world. One evening, as Ethan stayed late fixing a broken heating unit so the night staff wouldn't freeze, he was summoned to the executive floor. The request was formal, emotionless, and it drained the color from his face. He thought of Lily, asleep at home with the neighbor watching her, and of the fragile life he had built piece by piece. Walking toward that office felt like walking toward judgment. The meeting that followed didn't unfold the way Ethan expected. There was no shouting, no threats, no accusations. Instead, there was a quiet intensity, a recognition that surprised him. Victoria spoke not as a distant CEO, but as someone who had noticed him for the first time, not for his mistake, but for his consistency, his reliability, his humanity. She acknowledged the accident without cruelty, and addressed the unspoken fear hanging between them. In that space, something rare happened. Power softened into understanding. From that point on, changes came slowly, almost invisibly at first, the way dawn creeps in before you realize the night is gone. Ethan was offered training opportunities, then a chance to move into facilities management, a role that recognized his skills rather than ignoring them. His schedule became more flexible, allowing him to be present for Lily in ways he never could before. At home, the tension he carried began to ease. He laughed more. He slept better. Lily noticed it first, telling him he smiled with his eyes again. Victoria, too, changed in ways no quarterly report could measure. She started walking the floors, learning names, listening to stories. The company culture shifted, slowly but meaningfully, as empathy trickled down from the top. All of it traced back to one accidental moment, one wrong door, one reminder that people are more than their roles. Life didn't become perfect. Ethan still struggled, still worried, still faced days when the past felt heavy. But he also found purpose beyond survival. He became a mentor to others like him, unseen workers carrying silent burdens. He taught Lily that mistakes don't define you, but how you respond to them does. And in quiet moments, when the building was empty and the lights dimmed, he sometimes thought about how close he had come to losing everything, and how strangely grateful he was for the moment that almost destroyed him. If this story is touching something deep inside you, if it reminds you of a time when one moment changed the direction of your life, please take a second near the end of this video to like, comment, and share it. Your engagement helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. And before this story closes, I want to ask you something special. Comment below and tell us about a moment in your life when something went wrong, but later turned out to be a blessing. Your words might inspire someone else who is struggling right now. In the end, Ethan understood a truth he had never been taught before. Sometimes the doors we open by mistake lead us exactly where we were meant to go, not because of what we see in that instant, but because of who we become afterward. And in a world that often feels cold and unforgiving, that quiet transformation can change everything.